Haya, you're a monster. I need you to know that before we start. But how dare you to start with. And first of all, good morning, bedheads and sleepy breads. We're doing book club today. Hold on, let me say hello to everybody first, because Haya's decided to attack like a bum. But first of all, congratulations. Why is it not showing on here? All right, I'll use the other thing. Congratulations, Brian, Fox, and Blue for first, second, and third, respectfully. Hello, Brian. Hello, Fox. Hello, Blue. All right, and thanks, Haya, for the raid. It's very nice of you. And first of all, hello, Cooks. Hello, Safan. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Bearer of Peas, Brick Muppet, Squad Leader, Haya, TK, Brian. How is everybody doing today? Oh, Spencer, Cooks. Did I say Cooks? Did I miss Cooks? There's no way I missed Cooks. I couldn't have missed Cook. It's impossible. You can't miss Cooks. It's practically illegal in these parts. Let me make sure. Earning my place on the banner over the fire. It's true. It's true. It's important that it's there. It's a reminder that I always need to strive to do better, Haya. That's what it is. Reminds me that I'm forever in conflict and must always improve myself. But hello, everybody. For those who aren't aware, today it's the end of the month, so we're doing book club. I don't know where to look because I am very anxious at the moment. Man, it's just like, yeah, you pop on a game and just, like, play it. That's easy enough. But when it comes to talking about a book and actually having to do, like, a sit-down and, like, an open conversation about it. And also have a good lurk, Haya. Thank you so much again for the raid. Much appreciated. Oh, right. For those who don't know, my name is WillSleepsNot. You may call me Will. You may call me Sleeps. You may call me WillSleepsNot. I'm an insomniatic, dyslexic, ADHD Vtuber who plays a variety of games. On Saturdays, I do art. And at the end of every month, hopefully, we'll be doing book club at the end of those months, as best as I can do. And hello, Ling. Thank you for the lurk. Have yourself a good one. Can we call you Not? The only reason I say no to that, Brick, is because someone tried to do that once, and it got so confusing because I'm like, I don't know if you just accidentally capitalized Not or if you're talking to me. How many d6 of damage does a book? Scotty, you monster. See, Scotty, you're missing the point in this regard. It's not about it actually does the regular 1d4 damage, but it does 1d4 intellect damage. You're thinking you got it right, but you're thinking about it from the wrong angle. You hit someone and they immediately go, I feel like I have become less intelligent. I believe a club is d4, isn't it? Or is that a dagger? Am I freaking messing up a dagger for a club or a club for a dagger right now? Kind of dig the fireplace background. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. And hey, not the big boss. How's it going, my dude? It's not about the damage, about sending a message. Exactly. It's like vicious mockery. It's not about the damage. It's about the seed you plant, the seed of doubt you plant in their mind. It's for the future. I think there used to be an ability, I think in 3.0 or was it 3.5, for monks that had an ability, something palm, that you could strike someone and then for like 24 hours or something, they just basically had this vibration in them, and if you chose to use it, basically you could do like the delayed death where you're just like, and now. Also, Spencer, tell me you have pictures. I require pictures. Please and thank you. Hold on, let me also check to make sure that my camera's correct here. Camera is correct. All right, I'm going to have to just turn my head a little bit more. Wait a moment, this is a work in progress. Yeah, that should work. Five-finger death punch. Essentially. I don't remember what it was actually called. I love the fact, though, that just because I'm sitting in a chair now, it's like, let's talk D&D for a second. And it's just like, all right. You even have a shout. Yeah, I have no idea how I managed to get this to work, not the big boss. It was a lot of fiddling. Like, all of this I made myself. Oh, thank you, Cooks. That's very appreciated. Hold on. I'm gonna put chat a little bit more here. And hello, Blue. I hope I'm getting this more correct now. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm confused easily. Cause like yesterday I sat down and actually was like, oh, I should probably like write some notes and like write some notes and some themes and such. And there was a raid. There was a raid. Not the big boss. Haya came in after watching a bunch of deep sea divers kidnap a bunch of innocent animals. Hold on, I'm gonna find the sweet spot of where my head needs to be. Love the high verses. Thank you, Cooks. I made it myself like a year ago. This art is so old. I bet I could make a real-life book club with a relatively small amount of money. If you get some cheap books, Scotty, probably. Wouldn't be too difficult. I can only assume chaos with the claw machine. That's exactly what it was, not the big boss. How was everything over at Highest Stream, by the way? I didn't get a chance to stick around for as long as I wanted, but I hope they got more cool samples and got to see more cool things. I know there was a crab. They stole, how to say it, they kidnapped like a kind of a, how to say it, like a reddish fluffy thing that reminds me of those stress toys from like the 90s. They stole a bunch of other things. They got access to, there was another creature I think that they saw, and I can't remember what it was anymore. I need to use the most brain dead and terrible books for maximum damage. Well, there you go. You gotta go for that max. Is there actually any weapons in D&D that do intellect damage? Maybe with like certain enchantments on them, but I don't recall any like enchantments that do intellectual damage. Pardon the tapping. I'm holding my tea at the moment because I need it. I need to fidget with something because I'm I'm nervous. And like I didn't even finish that freaking thought. Yeah, I like sat down yesterday and was just like, okay, I gotta like actually like ponder the book again so that I can talk about it properly and like make some notes, and like also was just like, god damn, like I haven't wrote a book report in like 15 years, so that's something. No, wait, I had to have done one, or something of the similar. In college. There's no way I didn't. Did I? I don't remember. We had to write essays about stuff, so maybe that's close enough. But, like, yeah, I was just like, oh, God, what are, like, the themes of this book? What are my own thoughts? Like, how do I even summarize, etc.? So, I'm a little bit of a... I'm still a little bit of a mess in that regard, where it's just like, well, I made myself some notes, so let's hope that I could actually stay on relative topic. Also, let me know if the music is okay. I picked something, and I'm like, I don't know how long I could listen to this, because rain noises make me sleepy, so it's like, I do like the kind of, like, rain jazz sound, and it's apparently DMCA-free. Fingers crossed. Flowers for Algernon, I will shut up for this one. You'll shut up for this one, but we're discussing it specifically, not the big boss. A couple peeps have read it over the... Oh, read the book and saw the movie. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. If it's the movie that I think it is, the movie is in my opinion, rather terrible in comparison. It just has a lot of shoddiness compared to, like, the book. It takes certain approaches to the book that I don't think they nailed. We'll say that out of kindness. But anyway, for those who aren't aware, to get on topic, where's the thing? Talking about the Robin Williams one. Then I don't think we're talking about the same one, not the Big Boss. Hold on. Well, now I gotta Google. 1 second. On movie. Let me see. Oh god, how am I going to find this? Because I realize I don't remember if it's Flowers for Algernon or if it was called something else potentially. Which would also explain how they approach certain things. Ugh. Ugh. Research. Should have done it. Didn't do it. Shame on me. I read it in short story form in schools. There are a longer version. Yes, actually, Bearer of Peas. There is a longer version, which is the one that we read. It's a little bit under 200 pages, I believe. Are we talking about Flowers for Algernon? Because it did do that is what we're talking about, Scotty. We are indeed talking about Flowers for Algernon. I really should have put somewhere on the screen, but I haven't figured everything out yet. It's called Awakenings. Oh, the movie that you saw? Okay, then I don't think it was Awakenings that I saw. I'm looking for images that I remember. No, it's not that one. Oh, was it Charlie? Hold on, Charlie with a Y. Movie. It might have been Charlie, potentially. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me look. Yeah, I think it was Charlie that I watched, and it was not that great. Yes, not the Big Boss. I'm saying that I haven't watched it. Just look it up. The author extended it a few years. Extended the short year. Yeah, and it's a very good book. The extended version is very good. Dang it. Now I'm lost. I'm lost already. This was all going to happen. It's all falling apart. Remain confident and remain calm. Oh god, that's right. This model might potentially occasionally just pop randomly just because of certain things that I have to do in order to put it in this position. So if I ever move around strangely, it's supposed to be that way. Wink. But yeah, for those who haven't read... Oh, wait. I think I want to be there. Yeah, there we go. For those who haven't read Flowers for Algernon, essentially to summarize the book, which I should have actually written a summary for myself, but essentially the book is written in the form of diary entries or progress report entries from the perspective of somebody named Charlie. Charlie being somebody who is of below average intelligence. I think he's supposed to have an intelligence of an IQ of 80. Which, you know, ignore the concept of IQ. I know it's, like, debunked to some extent, but, like, this book was, or the short story at least, and I think the long version at least that was built upon it was, like, from, like, the 60s, so, you know, we gotta take some of the stuff in this book with a grain of salt. Hello, Lunity, how are you? But essentially, he is a below like a notably below average IQ individual who is selected to undergo like a radically new operation that is supposed to increase his intelligence, and the book essentially explores his rise to becoming a genius. And it's a very fascinating book. It was a book that like I'm a little bit nervous to talk about because it was very it was very influential to me when I was a teenager, because it hit, I don't know, it just hit notes that I needed at that particular time in my life. So I'll admit I'm a little bit biased towards liking the book because it's, you know, it's important to my childhood or my teenagehood, whatever the heck you want to call it. Also, I should point out now, I should have put a sign now that I think about it. There's obviously going to be spoilers because there's no way we can talk about the book without spoilerizing all of it, you know, from beginning to end, since it is, how to say it, a lot of the themes require you to spoil the book in all regards. Like, I guess this is where we're supposed to go to the themes part, right? That's how book reports work. You start by giving the introduction, and then you're just like, all right, and what were the themes? Well, the themes that I found in the book were the following. And now, mind you, these aren't all of them. These are the ones that came to mind for me, or the ones that were prevalent to me specifically. There was academic intelligence versus emotional intelligence, which is like a big thing in the book. Talking about, like, how to say, like, approaching the idea of having, you know, the character becomes, like, a legit genius. Like, essentially becomes one of the smartest people in the world. But still has the emotional mentality of, like a 12-year-old. How to say it, like those two, like, and it kind of explores the difference between those two things and how they affect people. There's intelligence versus wisdom, which is pretty similar to the previous idea, you know, like the difference between like intelligence and the ability to know and learn and such, versus the ability to understand and observe and intuition and, how to say it, like the insight, etc., like the difference between those two things. Ads are going to be a huge problem for this, aren't they? 1 second, I'm just going to turn off the ads. It's the end of the month. I was going to turn them off at some point anyway. Goodbye, nerd. 1 moment, please, while I murder these real quick. We'll do that. That and that. Alright. There. That should make things better. None of that shenanigans anymore. There's themes of bullying and being bullied, as well as, like, the awareness thereof, which was a really fascinating thing for me specifically. And then, of course, there is the, how to say it, the concepts of love and desire and, like, sexuality and, like, how people process them and such. Murderer? I'm sorry. Oh, because of the ads. Nah, Luna D, it's worth it. We're talking about stuff. I don't want to be interrupted all the time by ads. Blech. It's worth it. It's important. It needs to be done for the purposes of actual progress, because there's nothing worse than, like, getting into a big discussion and then all of a sudden just being like, and now we pause. You know? Now we just pause for the next 30 seconds while the ads go by and we sit in dead silence because I can't continue my thought because of this. The edge, well, it had to be done, Brian. We had to do it. I'm going to argue that I already have the data that I need to understand a little bit more about how the ad system works. Because technically, I wouldn't have streamed today if it wasn't for the fact that it's the end of the month. So, easy. Easy peasy. Out of curiosity, a couple of you guys have already mentioned, but who here has actually read the book? Either you read it in your teenage years or you read it recently, etc. Just out of curiosity, so I know where. Not just out of curiosity. Don't need to know any more than that. Just out of curiosity. Who here has actually sat down and meandered through this book? Yeah. Yeah, we got the double years. All right, so we have a couple people that have read the book before. Nice. Then you can call me out on my blogna should I potentially screw something up. And I guess I'll just start at the start. You know, I really like the book. I think the book is really good. I think that even for the fact that it is quite old, when the heck was it originally written? I should know these things. Will, why don't you know this? Originally published in 1959 as the short story. And then the novel came out in 1966. Okay, so it has been out for a while. So obviously some commentaries in the book are a little bit more problematic at times, but it seems to be a relatively, like, you know, there's the whole situation of just like, oh man, like some older books are kind of hard to read because just like some of the content in it is just, how to say it, like it's aged like milk. But I feel like Flowers for Algernon has aged relatively smoothly, all things considered, but I could potentially have a bias there again because I like the book. But I'm just jumping into stuff because my brain just wants to dive into it. So we'll just really quickly do the summary. Spoilers should be written everywhere at this point because I'm just going to do a quick summary, slightly more in detail of the book. Essentially what happens is Charlie works at a bakery as somebody with below average intelligence. It's very early on hinted that he is a very dedicated individual who is driven to want to learn. And the style the book is written in is like as somebody who would have a hard time reading and writing. So like the first, I think it's like the first 20 pages are written in a style, you know, like words are written incorrectly. They'd be written the way that you would say them. You know what I mean? There's not really a lot of punctuation used. It's like sometimes letters are just swapped around, etc. But you can tell that Charlie is someone who is driven to learn and likes making friends. And it's very clear very early on that the people who he calls friends are bullying him. You know, like they are, how to say it, he is the butt of the jokes and he doesn't register what he's, like, where he is. Like a 7-year-old roy. Yeah, exactly, Bearer of Bees. It's written very much in that kind of a regard. He gets chosen by a how to say it, by like a university like a university funded project that a couple of individuals whose names of course I've forgotten because I am so good at this. One moment while I go look. I mean, even if I do read this, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you the names because when I read stuff, my brain registers the names, but it doesn't. Dyslexia brain is a very strange brain. Like I remember the silhouette of the name. So I see the shape of the name and therefore register who is talking. But I don't know how to say the name because I'm not looking at the name from a verbal perspective. I'm looking at it from a silhouette perspective. That was for Algernon characters. Where are the names? All right, so we have Alice. Alice is the teacher that is helping Charlie learn. Like, she is a... How to say it? She is a teacher for people who have... No problem at all, not the big boss. You have yourself a good dinner. She is there to help with the intellectually disabled. Like, she tries to help make sure that... how to say it? Like, her whole thing is she essentially represents, like, stability, intellect, properness, cleanliness, etc. Like, that's kind of her role in the story. She is also the love interest. Well, one of the love interests, although, no, it's arguable that she is the only love interest, all things considered. But anyway, so through her, Charlie is approached by this university. Is it a university or is it a college? I can't remember what it is. I swear it was a university. Maybe I'm wrong. But he is brought there. They do some tests on him, and they realize that he is a potential candidate to undergo this radical surgery where they believe that it is, I believe it's glands in the brain that have not been triggered properly. And that's what their theory is that causes people to be intellectually disabled. And their theory is that they can fix it by doing a surgery and essentially kind of, I think the idea is that they chemically trigger those glands to fire. And through that, it will push a person's intelligence. But it's a slow process. So Charlie ultimately agrees. Oh, one of the important things is Algernon. I'm going to be all over the place, by the way. I'm very bad at talking about... and hey, Dorn, how's it going? Of keeping track of stuff, because my brain will just suddenly be like, oh, and then there's this thing, and there's this thing. But I'll try my best. Algernon, hence flowers for Algernon. Algernon is the mouse in the book that was the first successful animal test subject that that this surgery was successfully done upon, and who also retained his intellect for the longest, which was super important. So Charlie has to race against Algernon, and he ends up kind of becoming a rival to him while he's before the surgery and after the surgery for a period of time. Spoilers, the surgery is a success. As the reports go on, you start seeing a notable increase in his vocabulary and in his sentence structure and in his punctuation. And he eventually gets to the point of where he is, how to say it, he is becoming incredibly, how to say it, like he's becoming like moderately intelligent and then quite intelligent and then incredibly intelligent. And like during that time, he's like, he is starting to figure out what to do with himself. He starts realizing that he's become attracted to Alice. He is like devouring books at an incredible pace. He starts becoming just like ridiculously intelligent, and it becomes really interesting because they start playing on the idea of like, I don't remember how the heck to describe this, but like the idea that like there's a certain range of like, how to say this. There's a point in time where Charlie is below Alice in terms of just like knowledge and intellect. And then there's a point where he is at level with her. And that's when like their conversations are kind of at like their, how to say it, their strongest. But later he, like, just outpaces her dramatically. And it causes, like, a huge rift between them because he's just so much smarter. And she makes commentary, right? Just like, I know that when we're talking, you're bored because I can't keep up to you. Hold on. Me re-referring to my notes. Oh god, I am like skipping over so many things right now. I'm realizing there's also a huge portion of the portion of the book is dedicated to him like unlocking memories of his childhood and like what that's actually like done to him, like a lot of child abuse. His mother essentially not willing to acknowledge that he, how to say it, like his father being like, no, this is who he is, it's okay. You know, like, let him learn at his own pace, and his mother being a relatively unpleasant person, to put it lightly, who's just like, no, he's normal, he's just being lazy. You know, we need to pray the intellect into his brain. I apologize, I am all over the place right now. I should have made more notes. That would have been the better idea. But disgusting. Oh yeah, it's freaking, it's pretty brutal, Blue. Because later, like, she starts by going to like all these quacks and like spending just like money that they don't have on like, you know, treatments to try and make him smart. But then they have a second kid. And I think her name is Norma? Yeah, it's Norma. And that's when... what is his mother's name again? Rose? I think it's Rose. That's when Rose realizes, like, oh, I can, you know, like, create, quote, normal children. And she just, like, cuts Charlie off. Like, just stops well, she doesn't stop interacting with him. She basically just, like, buries him away like a mistake, you know, just like, no, we can't let the neighbors see Charlie because I need them to see that, you know, like, Norma is normal, you know, like, she's fine. We have a normal kid who's going to be fine. We can't let them see Charlie and see the mistake, you know, like that kind of attitude. The reason that Charlie is even tossed out of his house is literally his mother just has like a psychotic break, and it's just like, either the kid goes to what is it called again, Warren something. It's essentially like a school, like not a school, it's a mental facility for the intellectually disabled, essentially. It's essentially like a, what do you call it, like a nursing home for people with mental disabilities. And she's like, he goes there or I kill him. You know, like, those are the two options. And his dad trying to be, how to say it, like, tries to talk sense into him. It doesn't work, and her, and it doesn't work. And finally he's like, oh my goodness, you know, like, fine, I'll try. Assisted living. Thank you, I could not get to it. Sanitarium. There's another good word. Nice, Scott. And he ends up... Oh no, brain. Don't fail me this way. No. No! At one point, he does not go there because his... Was it his uncle? I think it was his uncle. Gets him a job at the bakery. Made it first rate reading room. Hello, Flossie. We're just, I'm trying desperately to go over the book right now, but failing miserably because I keep being like, oh, but there's this thing, and there's this thing, and there's this. I'm ADHDing my way through this book. Oh, God. I don't even remember where I was. Right, so yeah, that stuff starts to manifest really badly in him now because he's... Like I said, he ends up becoming one of the most intelligent people in the world. But he's now suddenly just, like, aware of everything that's happened to him. You know, like, he's, like, how to say it? Like, he was living in this interesting, almost, like, abyss when before the surgery, where he didn't dream, like, he didn't really dream. He was incapable of reading, like, ink blotches. Like, you know, like a Rorschach test. Like, they didn't make sense to him. He didn't know what he was supposed to be looking for, because it's like, well, it's just, there's ink blotches. It's a blotch of ink. You know, like, what do you want me to say? But now, you know, like, he's seeing symbols in the ink. He's dreaming, he's remembering, like, his childhood, and is just, like, started seeing how, like, his friends at the bakery were not really his friends. He's changing really dramatically, and people are getting scared of him because he used to just be, you know, like a simple guy, and now it's just suddenly like this well-spoken individual. How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast today? Dorn, I don't know what you're attempting to do right now. I don't know what your plan is. I'm not trusting you. I'm on to you, mister. You can't psychoanalyze me. Hold on. This requires an emote. Was one of the parts that hit me out. Dude, Haya, that part was like a big moment in my teenage years, where it was just like, oh. Like, it was like a moment of, like, self-awareness. You know, like, there was an odd, like, unlock. Okay, hold on. We keep going. So he starts having, like, more romantic stuff with Alice, and it just becomes this really fascinating situation where, like, he doesn't know what to do. Like, it's presumed that Charlie is straight, but, like, he doesn't know what to do, even though he knows what to do. You know, like, he's read all the books, he understands what sex is, but, like, whenever the how to say it, like, the situation comes up, he just, like, freezes. Like, he just gets, like, lightheaded, and his palms get really sweaty, and his knees are weak, and mom's spaghetti. Sorry, couldn't resist. But, like, he just has these moments because he's never felt that before, you know what I mean? Like, those thoughts have probably never crossed his mind. And then all of a sudden he is in a situation where he is, like, beginning to be romantically involved, and things have the potential to become intimate, and all of a sudden it's just like, I think Charlie's supposed to be like 37? Like, all of a sudden he is a 37-year-old with a blank slate when it comes to that. 32? Still, just a blank slate. Just years of never developed skill. Never developed, like, cognitive, like, setups in order to prepare himself for this. And he just, like, it just wrecks him as a person, because he's just like, you know, how do you grapple with something like that? You know what I mean? All of a sudden you're in a situation that you have never been in before, that most people around you have experienced before, and now all of a sudden, you know, even with all of your intellect, you are like, you know, the 12-year-old boy that just had their hand held and are just, like, profusely sweating. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, from a perspective of, like, emotional and, like, intimate intelligence, he is basically a 12-year-old. Just going like, oh, I don't know what to do and I'm scared. There's a song. Ooh, I don't remember who it's by. Hold on. Who is it? Wet Dreams by J. Cole. Makes me think of that. Just the whole, like, and I ain't never did this before. No, like, it just had that attitude to it where, like, he feels like he should be so confident and just, he can't. Like, he just has this moment where he's just, like, practically fainting just at the idea of it because he just doesn't know what to do. I do need to make all the mistakes everyone made at 14 to learn how to not make those mistakes is a whole other layer of horror to the book. Dude, hi, there's so many horror themes, and hello, Gwen. Maybe I should read the novel. I want to say I relate, though this is probably more extreme in my situation. Bearer of Peas, the novel has a lot of moments where you're just like, oh, ooh, I remember this. Like, probably at an earlier age, right? Like, all of us have a different time in our lives, and sometimes we don't. Where we have that moment where we've started to get either attached to someone or sexually attracted to someone, and you're all of a sudden just like, what do I do? So he has, how to say it, like, I think he leaves, if I recall correctly. He's like, I can't, like, I need to leave. He starts figuring himself out a little bit more. Like, Alice is the way that I kind of see Alice is a lot like Alice in Wonderland, in the regard of, like, in this crazy amount of chaos that is suddenly becoming Charlie's life, Alice is like this anchor of sanity for him. Like, it is like, she is patient with him. She is like, she reaches out to him. She tries her best to be helpful to him. Even though like everything is maybe not spiraling for him, but it is definitely a difficulty to it. And she's kind of there. Well, she tries to be to the best of her abilities. Homeschooled and developmentally delayed. That's totally all right. But Bearer of Peas, and I think I understand to some degree what you're saying. I was in special ed when I was in school, so when I went from grade 8 to grade 9, I was reading at a 5th grade level. So I don't know if that's how to say it, like, entirely, how to say, of the same degree of what you experienced, but, like, I'm gesturing as if you can see my hands. But there is that, like, suddenly you're flung into the world and you're like, what the fuck? I was not taught, But then he is supposed to go to, and I am skipping a bunch of stuff, so I apologize. He goes to, like, this conference that they wanted to go to, or that, that they were going to present his findings. And there's also this great struggle between him and one of the scientists. What is the guy's name again? Nemmer, I think is how you would say it. Nemmer. Professor Nemmer was, I believe, the guy who came up with the concept of the surgery. And there's just this interesting dynamic between him and Charlie, where Charlie just constantly feels like Nemmer is like always addressing him not as a person, but as, like, a test subject, as, like, how to say it, like, as like an experiment, just like, look at this, before my help he wasn't even a man, but now look at him, like that kind of energy, which, like, that was a super interesting. Hello, Solarcy, thank you so much for the raid. How are you? How was the rest of the Genshin? Did you make progress? And hello, Liar, how are you? Solarcy. There you go. I did the shout out, even though I knew. I repaid the favor, Solarcy. Enjoy your shout out. We still have so much needed exploration. That's all right. You'll get through it. I believe in you. And not the even more needed world. No. Don't give me that shenanigans. You are allowed to explore and have fun with the game at the pace you want, dang it. I will not allow you to think negatively about this. Play the game how you want. I say as also when I did play Genshin, all I did was run around and explore and get the little orby things, and then was like, well, I got my stamina bar to this much, and I've seen most of the immediate area. That's enough for me. Close. Screw 2 hour long. How goes the reading? Reading? We're talking about the book. We're not reading. I'm in the middle of attempting to walk people through the book, but I'm failing miserably. I don't even remember. Oh, right. So they're supposed to go to this, how to say it, like this scientific conference to show them off. And basically Charlie starts realizing that he is being very, like, underappreciated. And also he starts seeing that there is something wrong. Something in the calculations are wrong to some extent. And he starts realizing, like, oh, the surgery that they did on me, numbers are not matching correctly. Something wasn't accounted for. So when they start doing their presentations, he sits there and he's sitting next to Algernon's box, and he just kind of has the little moment where he's just kind of fidgeting with Algernon's lock. And finally, he's just kind of like, open. And he just lets the mouse out. Complete panic, pandemonium, everybody freaking out. Because, again, Algernon is like this like super intelligent mouse, right? Like he would understand how to avoid people and how to escape. Like he's a very, very smart creature. So they're just like, you gotta close the doors. We gotta do this and that and da-da-da. And Charlie ends up finding him, I believe, in a woman's bathroom, because all the other guys are not willing to go in there because they're all like, oh, what if? And he's just like, bah, go in there, find Algernon, puts Algernon in his pocket, and is kind of like, you stay quiet, we're leaving. And we're not going to tell anybody. So Charlie leaves and starts, how to say it, like doing his own like learning of himself. Like he gets an apartment, he doesn't contact anybody, and this is when Faye comes into the book. And Faye is a fantastic juxtaposition to Alice. Because where Alice is like straight lace, like proper punctual, like when we get a chance to look inside her apartment, everything is clean and neat. It is posh and, you know, like proper. Faye is like the almost like stereotypical artist. Like the first time that we see her, Charlie goes to her, he accidentally locks himself out, and he goes into her place, or like knocks on the door, gets let in, and she's just in her underwear. The apartment is a complete mess. You know, there's paint and like alcohol and clothing everywhere. The line that I always remember is that he kind of makes the comment, because he doesn't know where to look, because, you know, like, it's just this woman in her underwear, and he doesn't know what to do about it, so he's just I believe the line in the book is literally just, like, trying to look anywhere but her. And she ends up kind of being like, oh, fine, you know, like, I'll go put something on. And she goes and gets, like, a house robe, and she comes back. I just remember this because I love the line. It's just like, I'm glad that she finally covered herself up, even if the robe had holes in all the wrong places. I don't know why I remember that, but it's such a great visual. You know what I mean? Just the idea of like, he's trying so hard to like process this situation because he can't look at her. Like he can't wrap his head around it. So he's just trying so hard to look anywhere else. So finally she makes the accommodation for him, only to basically the accommodation to be almost nothing. I don't know. I enjoyed that scene. It was a great scene. And she's just like, oh yeah, if you just want to get back to your place, you could just use like the fire escape because it leads to your apartment. She ends up being like a prominent, an important person in his life. She is like the classic like free spirit. I don't know if it was intentional, but when I read Fae, I always think of like the Fae from like fantasy. You know, like the chaotic forces, the free, the uncontainable, you know, like that kind of thing, which is what she is. She is indulgence. She is, how to say it? She is a free spirit. You know, she drinks. She loves to go out dancing. She loves to paint. She doesn't have a job. She lives on, how to say it? She lives on alimony from like her husband, who I believe was abusive. I think it's kind of hinted at that he's abusive, if not outright stated, but like to kind of make it like, yeah, you don't feel really that bad that she's getting like alimony payments because like the marriage was terrible. But that doesn't mean that she's like not intelligent. Like she is very aware of who she is. She is a pretty good read of people. She just is a fun-loving free spirit, which ends up being very important for him as somebody who like doesn't know how to do that where he is now. He learns to drink with her like alcohol because he's not used to it. And it turns out he's a lightweight. And that's when you start getting some visuals of the next layer of like horror that is in this book. When he gets drunk, the other Charlie comes back out. So described. The idea of like that he's not really, how to say it? He is Charlie, but there's the other Charlie. I blocked that out. No, I refuse, Hyatt. It's important to the story because it makes the ending so much more painful. It's the idea that, like, that Charlie is, like, the display of, like, his, like, innocence, like, his childhood. It's always kind of portrayed as, like, a kind of a young version of himself. That's just, like, in his head, that just comes out sometimes, especially with alcohol. And he blames that Charlie on a lot of his things, like why he can't have sexual relations with Alice because he always feels like he's being watched, and like that he can't make that commitment. Like there's a scene later where him and Alice try to get intimate, and he's just like, I just need to approach this in a different way. I need to think of Alice as if she's Fae. Like literally like disregard that Alice is Alice. And it's one of those moments where you're just like, man, this is like kind of fucked. You know, like he's literally like trying to get intimate with somebody and basically being like, you're not even this person, you're this person, you're this person, you're this person, to try and get through it. And there's just a point where he just has his little redemption moment where he's just like, I can't do this. One, I can't trick Charlie, but also I'm doing something terrible right now. Like I'm erasing you and using you simultaneously. And he just leaves, like in kind of like a quick, just like, I need to leave, I'm so sorry, bye. And like that scene is one of those moments where like it starts kind of like, what are you doing right now, Charlie? You know, like this is weird. And then he has his moment. Like it's, how to say it? It's still a terrible moment because like basically Alice is left partially laying on the floor with like an open blouse, being like relatively like, how to say it, like engaged in terms of desire, and just him being like, can't do this, bye. And it's like, you know, so you feel bad for her because of course you would. But at least he has, how to say it, he has that lesson, right? He has that sudden lesson where he's like, I can't do this to Alice. Like, I can't do this to another person. I'm trying to, in this moment, erase them. Which, in a weird way, is like an odd juxtaposition to Charlie, right? The idea that he's looking at this other, well, what the heck do we call him? Young Charlie. We'll dedicate him as Young Charlie. And hello, Cobalt. I'll get to the stretch in a second. I'm in the middle of a big rant. There's this cool juxtaposition of it, right? Where he wants to make the other Charlie disappear because he's causing so much problems. But in trying to make that Charlie at least be unaware, you know, like blind him, he's kind of doing the same thing to one of the, like, the person that he is actually in love with, which is just like, oh, that's a freaky thing that is happening to you right now, which he then registers. He's like, oh, I should not be doing this. And he leaves. And what's interesting is later, when him and Faye eventually get intimate, she even says, don't lead me on, Charlie. That's not fair to me. You know? And it's that weird thing where it's just like, it's kind of what just happened. I mean, there's time between these two things. I think there's like a week or two happens between these two. And it's just interesting, you know, like that's kind of what happened with him and Alice. And now Faye, being the more sexually liberated and more open individual, is just like, hey, if we're doing this, we're not stopping halfway. That's not fair to me. You know, like, don't come in here with promises and then leave me wanting. You know, that's not fair. I'm putting that on the table now. You know, like, these are my conditions. And we'll do the stretch and the hydrate really quickly, Cobalt. Thank you very much for those. All right, everybody, quick pause. If you would like to join in the stretch, by all means do so. If not, totally okay too. We're going to reach up. And we're going to lean to our right. 2, 3, 4. And to our left. 2, 3, 4. And back. 2, 3, 4. And shake out our wrists. All right, back to it. And thank you again, Cobalt. So Faye ultimately becomes the person that is Charlie's first sexual relationship. They end up drinking. He starts seeing an opportunity that he can do it. Like, he has some alcohol in his system. There is kind of like a he feels a momentary, like, detachment between himself and younger Charlie. And he's basically like, Faye, we got to do it now if you want to do it. And she's like, all right, don't leave me. You can't leave me hanging, though. And he's just like, nope, we're doing it. Like, so, like, pushy that he breaks the strap of her bra. Just being like, please, like, I just need to do this right now. Obviously, luckily, Faye is okay with it, but not a great way to approach it, Charlie. Consent is sexy, but how to say it? The scene is set up in an indication with indications that she is down to clown, as it were. Just, he at one point has a moment where he basically is fueled by kind of like it's now or never, like, I need to do this now. So he does. There's a line where they do start getting intimate. And I think it's specifically he sees young Charlie on the fire escape staring in disbelief, and he kind of and present Charlie is basically like, go ahead and stare, you stupid bastard, I don't care anymore. And it's supposed to imply that he's kind of like broken through that barrier that has been dug into him by his mother specifically, because you learn in the book that it's implied that Charlie, and welcome back, not the big boss. It's implied that his mother believed that Charlie was getting sexual with his sister, which, if I recall correctly, was completely unfounded. But she basically just, like, beats him senseless, like, beats him within an inch of his life. Just like, you don't do that with, like, you never have those thoughts, you know? Like, if you ever think that way about a woman, like, I'll beat the thoughts out of you. So, like, you know, not great when you have that, you know, that trauma in your brain when you're trying to be intimate with people. But he pushes past it. We love to see it. I'm sorry, Haya. But what is it? He does finally. No, sorry. Eventually, he kind of goes past the other scientists and talks to the Foundation. He gets a grant and he starts researching. He starts researching the process that they did to him. While that's happening, Algernon's condition starts to decline. He starts to become erratic. He starts to become confused. He goes into just like states of depression. Faye at one point brings a mouse into the enclosure for Algernon because she believes that Algernon is lonely. Later, they find that female mouse with like a bite mark on her side, and they have to take her out because like Algernon is becoming like violent, like aggressively violent. And like Charlie's having a moment. Charlie's like, this motivates him even more to keep researching because like, if this is happening to Algernon, I need to figure out what is causing this. Because if it's happening to him, the same procedure's happening to me. So he researches and researches. And Alice at that point is being like this wonderful individual on the side where she's like bringing him coffee and sandwiches while he's like basically just like living at the university or college. Again, I can't remember if it's college or university. Doesn't matter. And he's just like just hours and hours and hours spent. Like Faye ends up kind of like abandoning him essentially because she's just like, okay, well, you don't want to go out dancing with me and like getting drunk. I'll go find someone else, which, you know, that's her incentive. She's allowed to do that. Like Charlie gets a little bit sad about it, but he's just like, you know, c'est la vie. And he has these moments where he finally figures out like, oh crap, the research is flawed, and I found the flaw. I am on borrowed time. So he goes to visit his dad. He finds his dad and he goes to visit. His dad used to be a barber supply salesman, and he hated it. He wanted his own business. He wanted his own barber shop. They could never afford it because they spent so much money on quacks that would take their money and the promises that Charlie would be smarter. He goes there, he gets a shave, he gets nicked. His dad, because he's so nervous to like engage with his dad, he patches him up, tries so hard to engage with his dad, ends up not being able to. Like he's just too unequipped for it. He almost walks out of the store without paying, and he realizes that the whole visit was just a mistake. Like, just like, I should have never come here. This was a silly idea. You know, like, I knew I wasn't ready. You know, like, there's a part in the scene where he's trying to sit down, and it says, oh God, please not now. Please don't let me faint. You know, like, he's reliving the moment in the progress report. And he's just having like a full anxiety meltdown while trying to meet his dad, which doesn't work, unfortunately. Later, he goes to visit the Warren School, which is the what was it? You guys said it earlier. The gosh dang it, now I gotta go find it again. Haya and Scotty both said the good versions of it, and I can't remember what the heck it's called anymore. Assisted living, that's what it was. The assisted living sanitarium. And he's like going there to look at the place, and it's super fascinating being there, right? Because it's like they're understaffed they have like thousands of people there of varying ages, of varying mental capacities. And, you know, like, he sees a bunch of boys that are just young Charlie, you know, like the empty eyes, the dopey smile, the willingness to please and to look for approval. Like, he just sees it all. He goes past the part of the hospital, or not the hospital, sorry, the assisted living area of, like, I can't remember what the heck they call them, but they're the individuals that are, like, violent. Like, there's bars on the windows. Nobody wants to work there because you're likely to be assaulted by the patients, etc., you know? And he has that moment of just like, oh, God. Am I going to end up there, or am I going to end up in the other place? There's this beautiful little scene where he walks into one of the places and they're going to talk to one of the nurses. And he spies these two boys. One of them is older than the other. And the older one is holding the younger one like a child. Like, they're just sitting and they're just kind of, how to say it? They're essentially having like a, how to say it? Like a, sort of like a cuddling session to some extent, but it's a little bit more maternal, I think. And it was just this wonderful little moment of, like, they talk about how it's like, yeah, like, every person, no matter how smart, needs comfort. Needs, how to say it, like, assurances. I know not for everybody, but, you know, like, physical touch to help, like, you know, like hugs, etc. Like, it was just a nice moment of where they kind of, like, acknowledge the fact it's like, hey, you know, all the stuff earlier in the book where we talked about how, how to say it, like, people of low intelligence, like, are lesser or don't need that stuff or won't remember, like, certain bad things that happen about them anyway. Just like, yeah, they're still people. And they still need people things. Like, you can't just give them food, water, and shelter and expect them to just thrive, you know? The hierarchy of needs are a thing for all levels of intelligence. I really wish he could have spoken to his dad in the novel. True, Flossie, but I think I think it needed to be that way to, like, show that he wasn't ready yet to visit his mom. I think that's what the idea was. At least that's how I foresee it. It's supposed to show that he is not ready to fully engage his past yet. He is not ready to go there yet. But Algernon dies. He basically, I believe he stopped eating and just, they were like force feeding him to try and keep him alive, and he just ended up dying. And Charlie takes the body because he refuses to let them put him in the incinerator because he has such a connection to Algernon. And he buries him in the backyard in the by the apartments that he lives in. And I believe it's every day he brings him flowers, hence flowers for Algernon. And then he starts to decline. He starts seeing problems. You know, he finalizes his big report, and then he starts to slowly go downwards. He slowly starts moving back towards the same level as where Alice is in terms of intelligence. And he finally has, like, a relationship with her. There's basically the moment where he's just like, do you want to do this? I'm not long-term material because I have finite time. And Alice basically said, I understand that. and I know that when it gets to a certain point, we're going to go our separate ways because you're going to go to Warren's. But I want to experience this. I want us to both experience this. And they do, and it's wonderful. And it's tragic. Oh, it's so tragic. Oh, it's so beautifully bitter. Oh, it's so beautifully bitter. He literally descends into what I would say is like the stages of like the stereotypes of like Alzheimer's. He starts forgetting things, the days go by, he starts forgetting words, he gets spontaneously angry. He, you know, like their lives get like tossed. Like he breaks, what was it? He has like this gramophone that he has, I think is what it is. He smashes it apart and keeps it in a corner of the apartment that like has to be there. At one point Alice tries to remove it and he like throws a fit at her, just like, no, that stays there, that's where that belongs. And I think there's also, he tears out a bunch of pages out of a book and throws them there too, and she's not allowed to touch that. He essentially ends up breaking up with her, I believe. Basically being like, no, that's it. Like, I can't do this anymore. And like internally he says it's him being afraid. Because of course it is. It's terrifying. He's as Not the Big Boss says, he's regressing. He's going back to who he was. But he's aware of what he's losing, like Haya says. And it's terrifying. So he's lashing out in fear. And in that fear, he just goes like, look, we're done. Can't do this anymore. Like, basically doesn't get out of bed, gets super depressed. But before it all falls apart completely, he goes to visit his mother. And it turns out that his mother is... I don't remember if they say that she has dementia, but it's like... It's incredibly strongly implied. Like, she just, like, goes in and out. Like, she'll just, like, go back to, like, a younger version of herself. Like, when she was, like, in, like, her 30s, etc. When he visits, and she just like goes in and out, and like he has a really hard time with it, but he realizes that there's no point in being mad at her because look at her, you know, like she barely even remembers any of it, if she does at all. And it turns out that his sister lives with her. She comes home, they get to have a talk, they get to talk about like a scene, the final scene, the scene where Charlie leaves the house forever, which is when she pulls a knife on him and says to the husband, I think his name is Mark. Oh, it's Matt. Says to Matt, he goes to Warren's or I kill him. And they get to relive this experience by her having an episode and pulling a knife because Charlie and his sister, like, reconnect and they hug each other. And in that moment, it, like, triggers something in their mother. She pulls a knife. They manage to calm her down. She goes back to, like, scrubbing the floors, I believe is what she does. And there's just this really, really sad moment where, like, Norma is like confining in Charlie, like, oh my god, my brother's back, thank you, please, you're gonna help us, right? I'm so tired, you know, like I can't send her to a home, but I'm so tired, you know, like she's crying to him, like being like, you're the big brother, like, you know, like I had always hoped that you would come back to save me, you know, like to help me like a big brother's supposed to. And he can't because he knows he's going to be helpless in like potentially days, maybe weeks. And he just tries to give her this like false comfort by being like, yeah, it's going to be okay. And when the episode happens, his sister's like, I think I had a dream like this. I had a dream like this once. And Charlie just has this moment of just like, I can't tell her that it's real. I can't have her know that she's the reason that our mother almost killed me in a fit of, the book calls it hysteria. And then at the very, very end of the book, hold on, we're gonna read the final pages of the book together because I think that's important. Come on, you. Thank you. Let's see here. Just want to make sure. All right, this is the final entry to the book. I did a dumb thing today and forgot I wasn't in Miss Canine, which is Alice. This is class at the adult center anymore, like I used to be. I went in and sat down in my old seat in the back of the room, and she looked at me funny and said, "Charlie, where have you been?" I said, "Oh, hello, Miss Kinian. I'm ready for my lesson today. Only I lost my book we were using." She started to cry and ran out of the room, and everybody looked at me, and I saw a lot of them weren't the same people who used to be in my class. Then all of a sudden I remembered, a lot of this is spelled incorrectly, so just keep that in mind. All of a sudden, I remembered some things. Oh, sorry. The room. Then all of a sudden, I remembered some things about the operation and me being smart. And I was like, holy smokes, I really pulled the Charlie Gordon this time. I went away before she came back into the room. That is why I'm going away from here for good to Warren Homeschool. I don't want to do nothing like that again. I don't want Miss Kinian to feel sorry for me. I know everyone feels sorry for me at the bakery, and I don't want that either. So I'm going someplace where they have a lot of other people like me, and nobody cares that Charlie Gordon was once a genius, and now that he can't read a book or write good. I'm taking a couple of books along, and even if I can't read them, I'll practice hard, and maybe I'll even get a little bit smarter than I was before the operation without the operation. I got a new rabbit's foot and a lucky penny and even a little bit of that magic powder left, and maybe they will help me. If you ever read this, Miss Kinian, don't be sorry for me. I'm glad I got a second chance of life, like you said, like you said, to be smart, because I learned because I learned a lot of things that I never knew were in the world, and I'm grateful that I saw them all, even for a little bit. I am glad I found out all about my family and me. It was like I never had a family till I remembered about them and saw them, and now I know I have a family and I was a person just like everyone. I don't know why I'm dumb again or what I did wrong. Maybe it's because I didn't try hard enough, or just somebody put the evil eye on me. But if I try and practice very hard, maybe I can be a little smarter and know what all the words are. I remember a little bit how nice I had a feeling with the blue book that I read with the torn cover. And when I close my eyes, I think about the man who torn the book, and he looks at me, only he looks different and be talking different, and I don't think it's me because it's like I see him through a window. Fuck that fucking sentence. I'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, that's why I'm gone to keep trying to get smart so that I can have that feeling again. It's good to know things and be smart, and I wish I knew everything in the whole world. I wish I could be smart right now. If I could, I would sit down and read all the time. Anyway, I bet I'm the first dumb person in the world who found out something important for science. I did something, but I don't remember what. So I guess it's like I did it for all the dumb people like me and Warren and all over the world. Goodbye, Miss Kinian and Dr. Strauss and everyone. P.S. Please tell Professor Nimmer not to be such a grouch when people laugh at him, and he would have more friends. It's easy to make friends when you let people laugh at you. I have lots of friends where I go. P.S. Please, if you can't, if you get a chance, put some flour on Algernon's grave in the backyard. At the end. So freaking sad. The thing, though, that always rattles my cage in this particular part is that he sees the guy who tore the book, but he can't see him because he sees him through a mirror or through a window. At the beginning of the book, or throughout the book, you learn that Charlie usually sees young Charlie through a window because young Charlie was always kept in the house because his mother didn't want people to see him, so that because she saw him as an embarrassment. But now, so implying also that in his mind there is another Charlie locked away. And now the roles are reversed. Now the intellect is locked away in the mind of the now older young Charlie, which is horrifying. Genuinely a terrifying thought process. This book is a wonderful, wonderful read, and it's very, very sad. It does a lot of build-up and payoff well. The fact that he literally is the same, to some extent, he is the same person as he is in the beginning of the book, because his whole drive at the start of the book is to learn and become smarter, because he believes that being smart is how you make friends. And throughout the book, he learns that intelligence is actually quite a hindrance to making friends, because if you do not have the emotional intellect to go with it, and the awareness and the insight and the intuition, when it comes to socializing, you can very easily not make friends because you will make people feel alienated, while you yourself also feel alienated because it constantly feels like nobody is at the same level as you. And then at the very end of the book, he still has that drive. He gets the drive back because he still believes that being smart is good. But he knows that he used to be smart, but he's not smart enough to know how smart he was. And that's frightening. Just being a prisoner of your own mind at the end. Ah, it's so good. Sorry. This book was a joy to reread for me. It was also just, how to say it, there's just a bunch of parts in the book that I remember. There's this scene that I forgot to mention where he is on a bench. I don't remember if he's intending to find a prostitute because he just wants to break the barrier through break that barrier. This is before he gets with Faye. And he finds somebody and they have kind of a conversation, and she kind of she implies that she is a prostitute, and that is something that they can do. But then at one point she opens up her coat and she has a little bit of a belly. And she says, we can still do it, we just have to be careful. And he just has a visceral reaction, just doesn't know how to process any of that, realizes he's way in over his head, and just shouts out, that's filthy, you should be ashamed of yourself, because he doesn't know what else to do. So he just throws the blame in her direction because he's not capable of processing what's happening to him in the moment, which in turn makes her fearful. She covers herself back up again. I think the line is similar to like she wraps herself up to protect the thing within. He's kind of, it's just like, wait, I've made a mistake. Please don't scream. She screams. People show up. He bolts, manages to like not get caught by the mob that forms to hunt him down, ends up causing like a homeless guy to get the shit kicked out of him, I believe. Because by accident, just because people just got whipped in a frenzy and were just like immediately just like, no, we will protect this lady. Time to go beat up some random guy. Mob justice. I don't remember where I was trying to go with this, but there's there's a lot of stuff that we did not touch on during this explanation. But yeah, there you go. That's the summary of the book. And it's great. It's terrible. It's horrifying. It's scary. Like a lot of times it's like unexpectedly like a semi-horror book. There's great moments of just like stride. You, in my opinion, you really root for the main character even when he's being a dick. It's good. I like it. And now we need to take a tiny little break because I realize that my tea is empty and I want some more of it so that we can so I can process or pause for a second and reprocess and recalibrate. So we're going to take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. I think everybody could use a 5 to 10 minute break. So go ahead, if you can and are able to, get up and stretch and grab yourself something to eat, grab yourself something to drink. Make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves. I'll be back in a few minutes. I will see you guys very soon. And we're back. I hope everybody was having a good time and took care of themselves during the break. Oh, man. Well, thank you, Flossie. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Blue. Man, this book is just so freaking... I don't know. It was... There's just so many fascinating thought processes to it. Like I said, like they do so many different things with different things, like, you know, like intelligence versus wisdom. And thank you, not the big boss. You know, there's intelligence versus wisdom. There's bullying versus being bullied. There's a great scene in about halfway through the book, or maybe a little bit further than halfway through the book, where Charlie's at a restaurant by himself, and there is this kid that reminds him of his younger self. Like, you know, like the kind of empty eyes, the dopey smile, the need for approval from others. And he's like a dish boy. Like, he goes and gathers stuff up, and he drops some stuff. Like, he drops a bunch of stuff on the floor, and stuff shatters. And the whole place just starts heckling him. You know, like... if you guys have ever been or witnessed, like, you know, like college parties, you know, somebody drops a beer and all of a sudden everyone's like, you fucked up, you fucked up, you fucked up. You know, like that kind of, like that same kind of energy, but a little bit more dignified. Just like, oh, how much is that going to cost the owner, etc. And there's this moment where he, you know, like the owner comes out and like tells the kid just like, oh my goodness, like go get a broom. You know, like go get a broom and sweep this up. And the kid kind of looks at him confused and he's like, broom, you need to go get the broom and clean this. And he kind of goes like, come on, shake. There we go. You know, like shake it, like, you know, like nods, goes and get it and starts happily sweeping because that's what he's supposed to do. And Charlie catches himself kind of being part of the crowd for a moment. Like realizing that he's maybe not laughing along, but he's with them. Kind of like teasing this person who is having a difficult time and is of lower intelligence, at least according to the book. And he realizes suddenly that he's laughing at himself. You know, like he's laughing at who he used to be. And it just like hits him like a sack of bricks. Where he's just all of a sudden, like he gets up and just kind of goes like, stop laughing at him. You know, like, can't you see that he's trying his best? You know, just like, how would you feel in his situation? Like, makes a scene. To the point of where he's so embarrassed that he just pays for the food, leaves, doesn't eat the food, he just leaves. Like, he's just like, I need to leave. Like, I've made a scene. But it's like this interesting moment, right? Where, like, it's only been, at that point, maybe, like, 2 months or something since he had the operation. Maybe 3. I can't quite remember the timeline of the book. But all of a sudden, in that moment, he's forgotten who he used to be. And he remembers aggressively, like it just hits him, and he's just like, ah, shit. I've forgotten who I was, you know, like, in that moment, I stopped being, like, I gave up on empathy on someone who I was not even that long ago. It's just a great little moment in the book, just where he's just like, oh, another awareness check, you know, like another like, oh. Because I think one of the other themes in the book is, how to describe it, like, oh, how would you say that? Oh, brain, don't quit on me now. Typical day in back of house. I require more information, bearer of peas, but I'm willing to learn. Oh god, how do you describe that? Brain, please! Losing your roots, I think, is a way to describe it. You know, like the whole idea, there's the concept of just like never forget where you came from, you know, that kind of idea. And in that moment he did, just because it was just easy for him to do. Phone, you shush. Shush, phone. 1 second. I'm gonna throw this thing at my frickin' in my bed. Get out of here. You go on out of here. You get on out of here now. And there's I wish I'd written down more things. The other thing, and like I'm not gonna go deep into this at all, I'm just gonna mention it. You speak too clearly with a pipe in your mouth. How dare you, not the big boss? Can't you see that this thing floats? It's a prop. Although I did consider it, I've decided not to. Back of the house, a bow. In the kitchen, staff. If you work at a dishwasher, you'll see it multiple times a day. Oh, I did used to be a dishwasher back in the day. For like a year and a half, I was a dishwasher at a place. Not a lot of breaking stuff, though, but it was a smaller establishment. It was slower paced. Except for that one time. All of us hated the owner for that. Literally just all of a sudden, owner comes in and it's like, hey, so there's a bus of like 40 people coming in. Like, in an hour. Good luck. And all of us are like, I'm sorry, what? And it is like, yeah, that's happening. I think it might have been 30, but it was still just like, you didn't think that maybe we should know about that? Oh, yes, those days. Didn't happen too often, but god dang what it did. But yeah, the other, like, I'm just gonna say it because it's just on my mind. But I don't think that we're gonna... Hold on, is it wrong for me to give my Maytag dishwasher a name? No. Why would it be not the big boss? People name inanimate objects all the time. Look at Castaway. Wilson is a famous character in pop culture. I don't know how to say that name, not the big boss. Wait, like the Family Guy character? Is that who you named it after? Tisk. You can't see it, but I'm wagging a finger at you. Dang it, I now lost my thought process again. Ah, why didn't I write more notes? It is okay. The problem is, like, I should finish my thoughts first and then look at chat, but I'm so... You know, like, 2 years of streaming has just programmed me to just be like, no. You can stop your thought. Look at chat. So that's totally on me. What the hell was I going to say again? There is a light underlying theme. It's not a theme. The theme is not there, but it is brought up from time to time. And I don't know if it would have ever been mentioned, but like, and it's you know, it's a word that's not great, but let's be real. Eugenics is in this. Subtitles. Did you really just quit on me right now? Subtitles! Work. What is happening with my subtitles right now? It is lagging. Hold on. Are we good now? There we go. Work. I did it, Flossie. I got it to work. But yeah, let's be real. There's some eugenics in here to some extent. You know, there's the tampering of the human mind, the attempt to increase intelligence. There's, you know, the one character, Nemmer, who, you know, like, comments towards Charlie that prior to the operation he was not, you know, he wasn't even human, or, you know, like, he was barely a man, and it's just so, like, that's some big yikes energy right there. But I mean, the story requires it to be there, you know what I mean? Like, it's all built on the concept of on the idea of somebody who has below average intellect becoming the smartest man in the world. And they, like, address it to some extent, right? Like, Charlie has problems with it. I think he at one point confronts Nemmer about it, where he's just like, hey, not appreciating the way that you're, like, reacting or acting as if, like, I wasn't a person prior to this. You know, it gets addressed. But it is something that came to mind. There is very much the idea of that. Which, I mean, has, like, the word itself has a pretty negative connotation. And, like, there's, like, they don't really explore it that much in the book, which is probably for the better. But, you know, I had to say it because I feel like I wouldn't be doing service to, like, how to say it, like, exploring the book if I didn't mention it. But anyway, that's essentially the entire commentary that I wanted to make on that. Again, I should have written more notes. This is my ADHD brain, and I'm sure other people can relate to this. You'll have some thoughts, and you're just like, ooh, yeah, those are important. And you, like, go to write them down, and you're like, oh, I'll remember. I'll remember. Of course I will. How could I forget? And then an hour, like 2 hours go by, and you're like, ah, shit. But, I don't know. I don't think, this piggybacks off the YouTube video that I saw about rating themselves with the highest ISQ. Rating themselves the highest IQ and rating ex-Marines with the lowest. Well, if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that IQ is, like, defunct at this point, isn't it? Like, it's a flawed system of, like, of calculating intelligence, because it's built towards a very specific type of brain. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to Google it, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Just watching the internet yell at each other about whether or not like, IQ is valid or not. Because I remember taking some IQ tests, and, like, they were fine. You know, like, slightly above 100, and I'm just like, okay. And then a friend of mine who is just, like, who just is smarter than me, full stop, like, notable few points higher than me, and it's just like, yeah, that seems about right. But, again, it could just be that he's just better at school, for instance, like, which he was. He's a smart cookie, whereas I am not as good at school, unfortunately. As you can tell by my poor attempt at doing a freaking diagnosis of a book right now. Me putting a pipe in my mouth and wearing a royal purple robe to disguise the fact that I am in fact a simpleton. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I read a book. Look how smart I am. Puff, puff. That makes you book smart. Exactly, Flossie. You get it. Some people can code a game. Some people can name all 52 flavors of Heinz ketchup. And both of those people are a marvel to me. Because my God, do I have a difficulty retaining information. It's gonna be a rough time next month for me. Dang, Will, this setup is fancy. Hello, Eccentric. Thank you. Don't mind the PNG flame in the background. Or the PNG flame on the candle that's just over there. You almost look like a proper gentleman. I was literally just saying I'm casting the illusion of looking like an intellect. But I'm not. And now my brain is having a moment of sparks because I can't quite remember the other things. Okay. Rule for myself for next month. Make notes for yourself. Just make some notes from time to time. The scene of him making rolls also struck with me. Just him learning but being rushed. Oh my God, Flossie, thank you. That was one I wanted to talk about. There is a scene, just to build on Flossie's for a second. There is a scene in the book. Have a good night, Brian. There is a scene in the book. I believe it's him. It's Charlie going back on a memory where he is bullied by one of the guys in the bakery that he works at. And then one of the guys, I don't remember what his name is. I don't remember the guys in the bakery anymore. But he gets bullied. He picks himself up. And one of the guys is like, well, wait. Why don't we try to teach him how to roll and cut the dough in order to make, I don't remember if it was rolls or if it was buns or if it was bread, but they're just like, Charlie, come here, we want to teach you something. And this was a part of the book, and thank you for bringing this up, Flossie, because this one's one that resonated with me. They're just like, all right, Charlie, watch and do exactly as I say. Those are important words. Their exact words were, do exactly as I do. So the guy shows how he folds the dough and cuts it up and rolls it and such, all the things that he needs to do. And then the other guy's like, let me show you. Let me also show you and do exactly what I do. So, person A teaches him and then person B teaches him as well. Person B also says, do the exact thing that I do. So then they put a lump of dough in front of him. And they're like, go ahead. Do it. And Charlie starts going, how do I do this? The way that person A rested their elbow on the table in this regard, where person B didn't. So which one am I supposed to go first? Person A cuts the loaves in this regard, whereas the other one cuts in this regard. Which way is the correct one? And then they're like, go on, Charlie. They start pushing him, and he's just like, what was the thing supposed to be again? Was I supposed to do this first, or was I supposed to do this first? The way that this person did it was this way, but the way that person B did it was this way. Could they just give me a little bit more time? I just need a little bit more time to process it. And they just kind of have a moment of well, I guess we can't teach him. And Frost Sigil, thank you so much for the raid. Hello, everybody. One moment, please. There you go. You were playing Pow World. How are you enjoying Pow World? Klaus Fragino was a good story. Yeah, we've been talking about it for almost 2 hours. How is everybody doing? I hope that you had a good time in Pow World. Thank you so much for stopping by. We're in the middle of talking about the scene where they're trying to teach Charlie how to work with the dough. And it's one that resonated so much. I'm glad that Pow World was fun. It resonated with me so much because I am somebody who will, like, watch something with intent and will try to mimic to a fault. And I am also somebody who can get analysis paralysis very quickly, like just full lockdown as you're trying to figure out how things work. And so, like, that scene is a great moment, and they're basically just like, all right, Charlie, you know, don't worry about it. You did your best. Go on, you know, here's your comic book. Go sit in the corner and read your comics. And it's just one of those things where, like, if they just had given him more time, he probably would have been able to do it. If they had worded their instructions better, it would have been better for him as well. Oh, man, I love survival crafting games. Frost Sigil. They're definitely one of my guilty pleasures besides, like, city builders. So, oh, yes. Wonderful. And it was how he wanted to do it right just a minute more. Yeah, exactly. He didn't want to mess it up. He wanted to do it right the first time, which, again, I relate to. I get very frustrated when things don't work the first time. It is very, very, very much something I am still trying to figure out. And they just needed to give him more time, but also needed to tell him I honestly, if they had put him beside them, done one of the actions, made him do that action, then do the next action and made him do that action, he would have probably have been able to learn. It would have maybe taken him a dozen tries, but he would have gotten it eventually. But just because they did the whole system in one go and told him that it had to be done in the exact way that they were doing it, just put him in a state where, like, his brain just overloaded with information. Been playing, Conan Exiles, with the giant spiders. Not my favorite. Bosses these days are not super friendly. Actually, Bearer of Peas, I don't know about the short story, but in the novel, his boss is actually very kind to him. The two that are trying to teach him something are employees of the bakery. They're... Okay, I need to... Did I have one open? I had to have had one open. Where are you? Oh, right. Gimpy. I forgot. He doesn't have another name. His nickname is Gimpy because he has a limp. But I believe it's Gimpy that teaches him, or that tries to teach him. I don't remember who the other one was. Maybe it was Frank or Joe, one of the two. But yeah, it's one of those. Let me see if I can find that particular thing. It is Frank? Okay, thank you. Hold on. See if I can if they can find it in here. There you go. I found the actual page. Charlie stared at the huge slab of dough and at the knife that Gimpy had pushed into his hand. And once again, panic came over him. What did he do first? How did he hold his hand, his fingers? Which way was did he roll the ball? 1,000 confusing ideas burst into his mind at the same time, and he stood there smiling. He wanted to do it, to make Frank and Gimpy happy, and have them like him, and to get the bright good luck piece that Gimpy had promised him. He tried to he turned the smooth, heavy piece of dough around and looked at the table, but he couldn't bring himself to start. He couldn't cut into it because he knows he will fail, and he is afraid. He forgot already, said Frank. It didn't stick. He wanted it to stick. He frowned and tried to remember. First, you start by cutting off a piece, then you roll it into a ball. But how does it get? To be a roll, like the ones in the tray? That's something else. Give him time, and he'll remember. As soon as the fuzziness passes, he'll remember. Just a few more seconds, and he'll have it. He wants to hold on to what he's learned for a little while. He wants it so much. It's such a sad moment. It's just people just not having patience with him. And it's sad, and it's yeah. Okay, Charlie, sighed Gimpy, taking the cutter from his hands. That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's not your work anyway. Another minute and he'll remember. If only they wouldn't rush him. Why does everything have to be in such a hurry? Ah, Flossie, there you go. We're on the same line. Oh, it's such a rough scene. It's such a rough scene. There's so many good and miserable scenes in this book. I love it. I hate it. It's wonderful. Ugh. Is another moment. Yeah, he's at the party, right? And he's yelling at... He's either yelling at Strauss or he's yelling at Nemmer. I think it's Nemmer because he's finally having it out with Nemmer. And he just has like a throwdown. He's just like, you don't get it. You don't get it. He's there. You guys don't see him, but he's there. And they're just like, he seems to have lost his mind. And he's just like, no, I'm not losing my mind. I'm more aware than any of you. And then I think he has a... Did my music just end? Oh. That was 2 hours. Whoopsie doodle. I think he cries at the end, doesn't he? Or he has a moment where he's just like, oh. Oh, no. It's just, yeah. It's just a good... It's a good book. Read it if you haven't. I'm sorry for all the spoilers. But it's good. He needed to pee like little Charlie, like small Charlie. Yeah! Honestly, everything that I'm saying right now doesn't do the book justice. If you haven't read it, read it. It's good. It's wonderful. It's sad. It's depressing. Like I said, I'd be here for hours if I tried to talk about all the stuff in the book, and I didn't make enough notes for myself to actually remember all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Flossie's been a great help right now because Flossie is good at remembering things and probably also good at taking notes. I'm not. I need to get better at that. But we have a whole year and 12 books to get better at it, so that's pretty good. Just do a quick scan for a second. What notes? Chef notes. But there's nothing wrong with notes, Flossie. Notes are good. My notes are not enough. They are ones that I came up with yesterday and today. Should have written a bunch of them down while I was reading, but didn't. Shame on me. All right. think what we're going to do at this point is we're going to read a review, because Flossie was kind enough to write a review for us. And then I think that's where we're going to do. We're going to call it for the night, because, like I said, I don't fully understand how we all want to do this yet. I didn't make enough notes, because shame on me. Hold on, let me make sure that I got this all sorted. You go there so that I don't miss chat. We go here. Kaju's streaming. What a goober. He's playing Monster Hunter World, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. We go here. Boop. Boop. And book review. All right. Now we got to make sure that we're actually in the right position. So we got to be here. Hopefully that's correct. Yes, we got to be here, and we obviously got to put on our review reading glasses. Also, I don't know. I didn't finish, but I wrote down a quote from the book that I want to share because I really like it. Of course, Blue. Go ahead. Write it in, but you can put it in, like, I don't know, book talk if you want. I'll read it afterwards. But all right. Flossie's review, excuse me, of Flowers for Algernon. 3 out of 5. What a great recommendation. Evocative and endearing, Charlie grasps at the heartstrings from the very first pages. Though a thought-provoking novel that explores the nature of intelligence and loss of oneself in the pursuit of knowledge. Flossie, am I allowed to read the spoilers as well? Just so I'm clear, because I realize I didn't ask about that specifically. Yes, okay. Then we have... Let me put it here. It's easier to read if I can put it here. You go there. All right. Hearing Charlie's voice through change and pain from the first page to the last broke my heart. I couldn't remember reading... Hold on. I can't remember reading of one truly complete, joyful moment that Charlie experiences, regardless of his level of intelligence. Through the bliss of his ignorance, still striving for more from connections to friends, to expanding emotions of embarrassment and anger, suspicion, and self-consciousness, his blunt, open honesty being moved to secrecy, and lies as he lost all sense of self, leaving nothing but grief. This intelligence destroys Charlie and leaves him so broken that even when regressing to a lower IQ level, his voice retained a changed sad quality of knowing without understanding. Quote, I know now there's one thing you've overlooked. Intelligence and education that haven't been tempered by human affection are not worth a damn. End quote. Themes of loneliness, belonging, connection, and friendship are carried throughout the novel in Charlie's unsteady hands. He longs to find genuine connection that resonates with him, wholeheartedly believing that the key was his gained intelligence. But through a childish adolescent lens, not able to develop in his existing sincerity and kindness, instead seeing his authentic self as a hindrance rather than as an asset to treasure. What he gains in knowledge, he loses of himself twofold. What is intelligence but memory of knowledge with understanding? It would be easy for me to convey all I felt about this book, but that would have to wait for another day while I reread it. And that's Flossie. Flossie's review of the book. Thank you, Flossie. I appreciate it. And Blue, where do I find your sentence? I want to find the sentence and explore and look into it. Typing. Sorry, you're good. I wasn't sure how long of a thing it was, so I wanted to check in just to make sure. I want to explain it. Stroopwafel. Wait, that's the better eye. But yeah, Flossie, I agree. Yeah, I didn't really dive too deeply into that, but did I? When he started, it very much felt... to bring a quote from, like, biblicalness for a second, there's the idea of, like, the fruit of knowledge, you know, where Adam and Eve partake in the fruit, and in that moment they realize they are naked. There's kind of a feel like that in the book from time to time, where his intelligence lets him register now where he was, and it's suddenly shameful to him, and he's like, no, that's no longer me. That's not who I am. When I read, I hear the characters' voices, and when his old voice returns, it's so sad and broken. Until the very end, I think in the end there's a hopefulness to him, to some degree. I do believe in the end he captures that naive hopefulness that he had when he was, before he was smart. You know, he even says he takes some books with him, and if he tries really hard, maybe he'll become smarter than he was before the operation without the operation. Like, there is still, like, a hope in him that he can do it through determination. And he's happy with himself for being so helpful, you know? He says, he's just like, I might be one of the only dumb people that has had such a thing with science. Hold on, let me read that sentence again, specifically. I bet I'm the first dumb person in the world who found out something important for science. But then that sad little line afterwards, I did something, but I don't remember what. So I do agree, it is a... Why are my subtitles being such dicks right now? Oh, you got caught in a weird loop. Oh, subtitles. You silly lads. Finish typing, sorry, alright, let me go ahead and take a peek-see-poo at it. A changed quality to his voice, then, that it was inevitable. Ah, fair enough, Flossie. I'll concede that point. He's not the naive, hopeful kid he was at the beginning of the book, because he's gone through hell and come out the other side changed. You know, he took the intelligence version of the hero's journey, but came back scarred and damaged. Partly because he realized how scarred and damaged he was to start with. You know what I mean? All right. From Blue. I didn't finish the book, but I wrote down this quote while reading. Quote, I like draw the pictures of a man and woman, but I don't make up lies about people. This is when he was getting frustrated at the ink blotches and the repetitiveness of the tests, and how his brain did not enjoy making up scenarios and give emotions to people he didn't know, because he didn't want to make presumptions about people. And this kind of shows how sweet he was right away to me, and it made me click with him right away. So it made me sad that I didn't get to finish the book. Hearing you guys talk about it, I kind of completed the book for me, and I'm glad the story was good. Yeah, that's actually really good. Hello, TK. Thank you for joining in the raid. That's a really good point, Blue. The book at the beginning really shows to piggyback off that idea. The book does show that he has like an innocence to him and a kindness. They even addressed it at one point in the book. Like, I think Alice calls him out on it, saying just like, you changed. And it's just like, of course. And he responds with something like, of course I changed. That's what the procedure was supposed to do. And she responds with like, no, 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 no. You changed, like, morally, like, emotionally. Like, you used to be like the friendly boy who wanted to see everybody smile and was determined to be the best that he could be. But now you're like arrogant and arrogant and snide and, you know, like cynical. Like, you've changed for the worse in that regard. Which, like, there's something interesting about that, right? There's the thought process of, I think I've talked about this before on stream, but in case I haven't, there's the idea of knowns, unknowns, and unknown unknowns. And to summarize it really simplistically, there's stuff that you know, there's stuff that you don't know, and then there's stuff that you don't know that you don't know. Like, there is, if you look at it like from the perspective of like a bubble, there's the first bubble is stuff that you yourself are aware of, that you know about, that you can talk about, that you are either educated on or familiar with. Then the second bubble, which is bigger, is the stuff that you don't know. That is stuff that you are aware that you don't know. If you don't know anything about rocket science, that is something that you don't know, but you know what rocket science is. Then there's the gigantic, nebulous, borderline, infinite bubble around that. That is the stuff that you don't know that you don't know. Charlie had the fun of simultaneously having this, you know, just like everybody else, you have the small bubble, you have the medium bubble, and then you have the mega bubble. Charlie had the moment where he fit that mega bubble started to disappear. And the bubble that consisted of stuff that he didn't know also started to disappear, as like the bubble that he knew, or the bubble of him knowing stuff, just like rapidly expanded. But there's this thought process, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the idea of, it's very similar to the Pandora's box. Like, once you learn something, you know it now. You know what I mean? There's the ignorance is bliss is kind of built on that concept. And there are certain things in life that once you learn them, of course you're going to be cynical. You know, like once you learn certain structures in the world, certain history, certain, you know, any kind of thing, there are some things that are just going to leave a scar on your soul. And when Charlie became a lot smarter and started seeing how, like, intelligent people work, you know, he stopped having that naive look on things. Just like, if, you know, before it was, if people laugh, that means they're your friends. If you can make people laugh, that's how you make friends. If you're smart, that's how you make friends. Then he started becoming intelligent and started seeing how, like, intelligent people talk to each other, you know? There's coded, like, there's, how to say it, there's reading between the lines. There's hidden meanings behind the way that says, nobody says things simplistically. There's always an edge to it. And he started becoming the same cynic, right? Where all of a sudden it's just like, you start talking, how to say it, you start approaching things differently. You start guarding yourself. You don't leave yourself open to attacks, because once you start seeing there's the potential for cynicism and other people's cynicisms, you start being like, oh, I need to start building some walls. I need to protect myself from the invisible enemy that you might not even be able to justify is there. You know what I mean? There's just like a paranoia that starts to form. The smarter you are, the more paranoid you become. Pardon, that ramble kind of got away from me a little bit. I'm not sure what my punchline is for that particular thought process. The point is as he became smarter and started learning a bunch of things, and started gaining that cynicism, like Alice said, you know, you've lost yourself. You're no longer the kind, people-driven individual. More know, more worry. Yeah, there you go. Like, I can definitely relate to that. Like, imagine for a second learning something that you like Charlie essentially sees the future, right? Once he realizes that the experiment is bonk, and that how to say it, that like he sees the situation that happens with Algernon and that he's on borrowed time. He sees the future now. He sees his own fate, and his fate terrifies him. How do you even like compartmentalize that, right? Like, it would be the equivalent, like, it's not too dissimilar people who get like diagnosed with like a terminal illness, you know? It's just like, yeah, you have a year. In Charlie's case, it was just like, yeah, I have a couple of weeks to maybe a few months. What do I do with this? You know? For some cases, you get nasty. In some cases, you go down the I need to leave my mark in the world. In some cases, you do the, you know, like I'm gonna deny, you know, I'm gonna get stuck on the stage of the angry stage of grief. I'm gonna get caught in the despair stage of grief. I'm gonna get caught in the bargaining stage of grief. Man, I hate when I start getting into a ramble and then just forget where I was trying to go with it. That's gonna happen a lot in these book club meetings. Just a fair warning. I'm gonna be like, so there was a reason that I was going down this road. Sometimes the unknown is scary too. Yeah, you're not wrong, Blue, but no, that particular analogy I don't think works here. We'll leave that one. Algernon makes me sad too, because the one strong streak of empathy and the old Charlie was through their connection, from him not wanting Algernon to have to solve things for food, or resolving to be friends. Yeah, that was one thing that was nice. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Flossie. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, that his how to say it, like a good moment, how to say it, like a good display that like the old Charlie is still there, is him being so annoyed. It's like, why does Algernon need to work for his food? You know, like, why is that his reward? He can intrinsically see that Algernon would do the puzzles just to do the puzzles, you know? Because later when he takes Algernon with him and makes, like, this this maze, this, like, complex three-dimensional maze in his apartment, sorry, odd noise in the hallway, when he starts seeing, how to say it, like when he puts Algernon in there, Algernon just does it. Like, he's being fed and watered, and he's just happily doing the puzzles. I mean, it's also a great moment to see that he's starting to regress too, which is really sad in that cage when he starts, you know, how to say it, just like having his little breakdowns and realizing that he's just like, I don't really know which way to go, so I'm just gonna get caught in a mental feedback loop and get violent and throw myself against the walls. And it's just like, Algernon, no, please, it's okay. Just pick yourself up and try again, or take a break. It's okay. The whole book is really sad, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Final thoughts on the book, and then I think we're going to wrap it up for the day. I do know actually what book we're going to read next. Yay. Because let's be real. We're doing the book club specifically because I want to... Because I'm secretly just using it to read books that I haven't read yet or wanted to reread. This is purely all it. This is purely for me. I'm sorry that I'm being like this. Take the glasses off. You're not being an intellectual right now. You're being unreasonable. I don't think it's right to make you pass a test for to eat. How would Bert like it if to have to pass a test every time he wanted to eat? I think I'll be friends with Algernon, and he remembers and keeps his promise to himself. Yeah, exactly, Flossie. Like he keeps that, like, through the book. The moment that statement is said, he makes sure that Algernon is like in good graces, especially after the conference when he takes him along. A new book, yeah, a lot of you guys have probably read the book. Just to be clear, I haven't read it. I somehow did not read it while I was in high school or grade school or whenever you're supposed to read it. I think we were supposed to read it. It was one of the books that could have been read, but we read The Hatchet instead. So the book that we're going to read... Actually, no, hold on. Does anybody have any final thoughts? I will let... How to say it? Like, the floor is open to you if you would like to have any final comments on the book. I don't want to suddenly jump to this because I want to say this and then we're going to end stream. And I'll also obviously write it in the Discord. Shameless plug. Should you want to be a part of this. But... yeah, if you have any final thoughts, please go ahead and post them. I'm hitting the point where, like, this is one thing that I'm going to have to learn. I'm having that, the same thing that I said that happens to me with movies, where, you know, like, I suddenly go into, like, mode, where you just, like, I am simultaneously hyper-processing this and also just... head empty, no thoughtsing simultaneously. So much fun. But also, even if there are no thoughts, don't feel like, how to say it, even if there are some thoughts, or no thoughts, or regardless, I still appreciate you guys hanging out and chatting about the book. It was a fun 2.5 hours. I had a good time just re-exploring and trying to activate my critical thinking skills, which is something I don't do often enough, I think. And isn't that the whole point of books? Is read them, analyze them, enjoy them, get lost in a different world, ponder the meanings behind certain things. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my butt right now. All right. It's looking like nobody else has anything to say about it. If you do, I apologize for latency shenanigans. I will say what the book is. If we get like a late mention after this, I'll still read it, obviously. I'm not going to deny anybody the ability to talk about things. That would be ridiculous. But the new book that we're going to be reading for this month is going to be Lord of the Flies. Because I never got to read that, and I know that it is a pretty significant book for a lot of people, and has been a book that's been like on the, I should really read this one of these days books. So, yeah. We're going to read Lord of the Flies this month. I've seen, how to say it, like the adaptations that we get from places. I know The Simpsons did it, a bunch of other shows did it. I myself have never read it. I know the general concept of the book, but that's not the same as reading it. So, we're going to read Lord of the Flies. And I hope that you guys will enjoy it. Although, if I recall correctly, it's also kind of a dark book. So, maybe we'll try to pick a happier book in March. Maybe. We'll try. We'll see what happens. I got some book ideas that we might peruse. But there you go. And also, yeah, great, Flossie. That means you get to read it with us as well. Because I always feel that's the one thing I'm worried about, is to be the one that's just like, I've never read this book. Here's the book we're going to read. And everyone else is just like, we read that before. And it's like, well, then I guess I read the book this month, and you guys get to just enjoy the fact that you've read it already. All right, everybody. Congratulations, we did it. We made it through our first. We made it through the first book club. Yay! With tea in hand. Cheers to everybody. Gulping the final gulp of my tea. There was more tea than I thought there was one moment. It was going to be so symbolic, and I dropped the ball. I'll join you in that gulp. Hell yeah, not the big boss. Cheers to you, my dude. And cheers to everybody else. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for just hanging and talking books. It's been a very... I've been wanting to get back into reading for a couple of years, and I kept putting it off. And it was just like really starting to get to me. And technically last year, I wanted to start a book club already. And I was just too new to streaming, even though I'd been streaming for about a year at that point. It was just one of those, just like, it's new and nobody's going to want to do that. Self-doubt, 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 self-doubt. And then, you know, now I'm moving into my third year of streaming, and I'm just like, man, to heck what people think. I want to read books and talk about them. This isn't about them. This is for me. I don't remember who I said that to before, or I would. So no, sorry. Let me completely restart that sentence. I was talking to a fellow DM the other day, and he was telling me about a story idea that he had for his Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And he was talking about this one thing, and like me as a DM too, it's just like, yeah, hell yeah, absolutely, oh heck yes. And there's this moment of where he's like telling me about all of this lore and stuff, and I'm just like I'm down with it. I freaking love lore and stories. And then there's just like this pause as he's kind of like finished the idea, and I'm like, you know, the players are never gonna learn any of this, right? And he's just like, it's just for me, okay? The lore's for me. And I'm like, amen, brother. So yeah, that's why we're doing this, technically. To some extent. Obviously, I also want other people to join me in this journey, because I want other people's opinions on things. But also, I want to read books. And if I put this on myself that I have to read a book a month, which I should easily be able to do, depending on the book. Spoilers, I do at one point want to read Dune, but I have heard from some sources that it is a very long book, and maybe you should not do if you early on, if you haven't read in a while and need to like get your reading brain back to a good position. So we'll leave Dune for a while still. Maybe we'll do that about halfway through the year. Thank you for not putting it as the read for the shortest month. Oh my god, that's true. That's true. Too bad not the big boss is my choice and Dune is happening, because I want to read Dune. Too bad. You don't have to participate, of course. This is all completely voluntary. But yes, that is the end of our January book club. Cheers to everybody. Congratulations, we did it. Hooray, hooray. And let's go find somebody to raid. We're probably just going to raid Kaju, because let's be real. That makes sense to me. Although, what is Orange doing at the moment? Orange is making emotes. Hang on a second. Decisions are difficult, and therefore we're going to make a poll. Where would you like to go? Maybe if I can type properly. Monster Hunter World or art? Boop. There you go, everybody. Poll is up for 1 minute. Decide where you would like to go. I will not say who is who, even though both of you already know, because I've technically already said it, but that's besides the point. I also need to change some parameters, because I can't nod very well. The nod is very connected to the torso. I'm going to have to play around with those settings a little bit. I'm still very new to the program that I'm using. This is VNyan specifically, because it lets me put backgrounds in it. Let's go back to this position here. A little bit further away. Yeah, got to keep my distance from chat. Heck, we'll go full distance. Get away from me, chat. Jeez, you're too close. We've been shooed. I mean, this set is specifically here because I wanted to, you know, put a display. Ooh, we're going to art. We're going to orange. That works for me. I wanted to, you know, I did model this and texture it. I did want to show it off a little bit. Next stream, we will have a book on the shelf. We'll have flowers for Algernon there. I'll probably do that in the next couple of days. We're just going to have, I mean, it's easy enough to put up there. Just basically a rectangle. I caught on late and couldn't interact, but thank you for stream. Thank you, Moon, for being here. You are totally fine. We just talked about book. Which hopefully for some people was entertaining. Insert paranoia here. Alright, well, obviously, we need to have... We need to have... we're not even going to have, like, a sub and non-sub. We're just going to have one raid message. There you go. I think that's a great raid message. Book club raid. Fear our knowledge. All right, we are going to head on over to Imitation Orange. Imitation Orange is a lovely, currently PNG, but also not PNG, VTuber who is currently drawing more emotes for herself because we have the loveliness of getting more emotes. So, everybody, we're going to head over to Orange, cheer her on as she makes some emotes. Will you stop doing what you're doing, please? I don't need you to read that. I just need you to be... There we go. All right. 16 people. God damn, you guys are crazy. Why are you even here? Go on, get out of here. Get on out of here, you crazy goobers. But yes, quick outro, and then we are on our way. So, everybody, thank you so much for sticking around. Whether you were chatting, whether you were lurking, whether you just popped in and out for a second, know that you were super appreciated. Hope that you guys are having a great day, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever time it happen to be for you. Hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope that you're drinking plenty of water. And when you finally do sleep, whatever time it happen to be for you, I hope that you have a very restful sleep. Thank you guys again so much for participating today. It's been very fun. I will see you guys over at Orange's stream. And until next time, bedbreads and sleepyheads, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next sleepover where we're going to play Kingdom Hearts 2. Bye-bye.